wild animal just flew behind me. I think it's okay. It's been living in the wild a lot longer than me, so it must know what the fuck it's doing, eh? The beauty of vlogging regularly is you can build in an editing process, especially if you rewatch your own vlogs. As much as I've talked in depth about my undergrad in electrical engineering, that's actually a running joke I have with myself. I really consider myself more of an artist, and vlogging is art, communicating is art. You can communicate in many different ways, orally. In a bit, I'll communicate through dance. In my previous vlog, I explained my sex stock theory, but in rewatching, I realize I completely fucked it up. Because I missed the most important part of the explanation. Today, I'll make up for that in spades with props. So, why do humans choose to have sex with each other? We may have many answers. I'll analyze based on one angle. Some have it maybe to chase the physiological phenomenon of orgasm. I think this is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard, because it's like people purposely picking losing stocks. Here's why. I'll explain in detail. Better than last time. If you choose to engage in sex with another human, you have to pay for that. You have to invest. And that payment comes in the form of risk of STDs and pregnancy, among other problems too. Emotional, others. With that risk comes a reward of orgasm, okay? But if you choose to have sex with another human being, you're basically picking the most expensive stock with the least upside. The reason why I call it the least upside is because of the concept of automation. Many months back, when Andrew Yang was still contending as a Democratic candidate for president, he championed universal basic income because of the impending threat of automation replacing many jobs in the economy. Fast forward half a year, or even just a couple weeks after he dropped out, his UBI was something that looked sorely, sorely needed with all that happened, pandemic, ruined economies, etc. He's too intelligent to say what I'm about to, but I'll go there because I'm me. Automation is also replacing your genitals, because if you think your dick or your vagina is the sole way that people can orgasm, I have some news for you. Hear this? Some live ASMR. press a button and another button, the same button, and I'm going to contend with facts and logic that the physiological orgasm you think you're obtaining with another human ain't got nothing on the one that you can obtain with yourself with automation, okay? It just can't, because you can't be so consistent. You can't be so varied. You can't be so fast, so slow, change so many angles, spin, get up all in the business, be in multiple places at once. I'll read you the back of this. You tell me who the fuck the dicks is competing with this. Dainty dimensions. Let you slip your gems into pocket or purse. Phthalate free and whisper quiet for body friendly thrills. Waterproof design lets you play everywhere. Vibration located in the tip for maximum satisfaction. Variable speed for variable moods. Flexible shaft provides comfort from all angles. Horizontal loops add a sexy swirl. For best results, use with Climax lubricants. Now, in case somebody accuses me of being reverse misogynist and sexist, my vagina is replaced too. Because I'm such a scientist. Here's one for the fellas, but one that I can open and explore inside. I wish you could feel in here, because if you add a motor and a warming device and a squeezer, relaxer, nobody's vagina is competing with this. They have also designed mouths and asses. You ain't competing with that. So you are not your genitals. That's my fancy way of saying it. And that's why I feel like people who choose to have sex with others are basically picking losing stocks, because they're picking the most expensive one in terms of risks, STD, pregnancy, for a worser orgasm. If you do it yourself, it's cheap and it's better. So, of course, you can come up with new combinatorics. How about adding these to sex with another human? Ah, now you're getting on the right track. So, back to my title of YouTube, The Hoarly Virgin. I weave in and out, explaining my stance on sex. I integrate it into different vlogs that look like they should be about completely different things. But that's the way my creative mind works. I see connections, and I go with them. So, I describe myself as largely asexual, and I am. The proof is in my actions. If it were so important to me, I would have done it already. There's something about it that doesn't appeal, at least the way humans normally do it. But something does appeal, and that's a sense of adventure. As someone who self-describes as an adventurer, I can exclaim that most of the adventures I've undertaken have outweighed even the most adventurous kink experiences that I've had. The factor that might make some of the kink experiences worthwhile was because they happened on the road while I was adventure traveling. So the interaction with another human just on its own has very little to entice me. Because like I said before, I do not define myself through other people's lenses. My YouTube is a perfect example of this because I obviously don't give a fuck about growing an audience or retaining an audience. In fact, I probably break every single rule of growing into a social media influencer or star, but I do it anyways because I don't care. I want to be me and I want to be free. Okay? If you want basic bitch, basic bastard ideas, you can find them ad nauseum with other people who will film and edit 50,000 times to get the perfect this and that and the other. Okay, yes, because we are attention gnats, I understand that in order to retain an audience, people have to do things in order to make their content appealing, their content palatable. But what if you didn't fucking care about any of that and you just were you? So this is me. Because I have that mentality, other people have very little to offer me unless we're somehow creating an adventure together. So I've often found myself much more interested in debating philosophy, politics, adventure travel, extreme sports, animals, anything under the sun with people who are in their wheelhouse, as Joe Rogan would say. So, Joe Rogan has interviewed people from across the spectrum, scientists to mixed martial artists, and I'm similar in that sense. I enjoy all the things that Joe Rogan does, except for maybe the drugs. Even then, I've done brief experimentations, despite being from one of the arguable weed capitals of the world, Vancouver. I've only really toked up once successfully, and that video is on YouTube. I reacted poorly, just like I've tried alcohol once, smoked once. None of it took. I want to reveal more about my kink, but I'll save that for Slutty Sundays. I keep promising more content, and I will do that, but I need time to create in that way. Suffice to say, back to the point. Back to the point. Many of the things that you think give you self-esteem don't have to. Now, if you want to define yourself that way, you can. If you want to define yourself as to, oh my god, I can attract the opposite sex, yay me, that means I'm a worthwhile person, go ahead. I obtained an advanced degree and I have a good job paying money, go ahead. If you want to define yourself this way, you can. I'm just offering, through the Holy Virgin, that you don't have to. The problem is the journey of you don't have to is much more difficult unless you're creative. So if you were a boring, basic bitch or bastard, a Karen or a Chad, maybe those other things are all you would think of because they're all that you've ever been told. If you're the one who follows what you've been told, then you're only going to know X many options. But if you got that creative spark, you can literally try anything and everything and just take that as the journey. Instead of even conceptualizing it as self-worth, how about just call it a self-journey? That's even easier. Have that sense of childhood curiosity. Remember when you were a child, you just tried things because whatever? How about using that mentality for now and forever? This is really funny, actually. I really wish people could do themselves a favor and feel this. It actually feels nice in the hand. So that's why I keep holding it. I could have put it down a long time ago. See what I mean? Japanese people are ahead of the fucking curve when it comes to this. I visited Japan in 2014. I backpacked through Japan, starting from tip, almost Hokkaido, in Fukuoka, all the way up to Hokkaido. Wait, did I say that right? Almost from the lower tip, Fukuoka, up to the northern Arctic tip, Hokkaido. Whereas people might have spent their time in Tokyo in a different way, I returned to Akihabara several times. Akihabara is basically the sex toy, electronic sex capital. So everything you can imagine you can buy from there. Maybe I'll roll out a couple of other interesting pickups from there as time goes on. But just more importantly, I wanted to properly explain my sexual stock theory because I realized I botched it. I think this time was much better, but again, I can just explain it again. That's part of creativity, and that's part of what some people have accurately understood. Gary Vee, the prolific entrepreneur, is one of them. He sounds repetitive. I might too. But sometimes it's about running through ideas again and again and again, because every time you verbalize it, every time you're creative that way, it comes out slightly differently. Sometimes it's just that slight difference that makes things hit for you versus fall. So I'm curious to make this idea hit, because I've actually come across many people who reveal to me a lot more than they otherwise would because I'm so open with myself. There's something about just saying I'm a holy virgin that makes people curious, and they quickly start to reveal their life's deep, dark secrets. In doing so, one thread that I've noticed through many people is that their sex lives are actually quite mediocre. And they'd really like to hype it up, but there ain't nothing really to hype. Now, that's probably because people have just shitted out so many expectations on it. And that's a tough one. It's a tough one to unwire in yourself. As I explained last time, to quote Richard Dawkins, we as organisms, all creatures, are basically throwaway survival machines for the genes which we contain. Okay? So the difference between a successful gene and a failure gene is very important, because that could mean implications far-reaching into the future. In fact, he mentioned that some genes are the same as they were hundreds of millions of years ago. Well, that means that the genes that are around are very good at making throwaway survival machines to propagate the genes into the future. Okay? That explains why I call it mindless fucking and procreating, but there is an evolutionary basis, a scientific basis to why people are doing it. I would be remiss if I acted like I have no idea. I have no idea from a logical standpoint through my own lens, but I understand it from a scientific standpoint. But again, calling back to yesterday, what scientifically is not necessarily what ought to be. What ought to be might be a different reality for every single organism out there, if you're going to say it like that. Okay? So I would encourage, especially people who are still mostly limited in their interactions because of the pandemic or other factors, take time to be creative, to explore every fucking thing under the sun. If you watch just even my last 3 Money Monday vlogs, I started with stories from around the world, then concentrated on Zimbabwe, then about Bret Weinstein's transfer frontier and assertion that maybe genocide and violence are adaptive. I've breakdance, I've explored coins, I've done so many things, and that's part of why I'm self-actualized as a person. People have often asked me that particular question. How have you become so self-actualized? Well, I've allowed myself to actualize by exploring. That's basically it. So, I do have new choreography this week, speaking of self-exploration and creativity. I'll admit that choreographing my own routines has been a struggle the last couple of passes. I'm generally happy with what I've created, but I maintain that the freestyle is much more what I prefer. I'm trying to build my choreography skills right now, but I prefer freestyle because I have noticed I have what's called resting bitch concentration face. Every time I'm performing my own choreography, I have a face of concentration instead of a face of ease. Which might be what a lot of people are doing in life. Just try. Okay. Let's start. I'm gonna repeat that 2 more times consecutively. this is more a note to myself and my creative process. I am obsessed with choreographing using lyrical concepts. So as a fun exercise, if you're bored, you can rewatch all of my choreography and even my freestyle and notice how my actions are actually pantomiming the words, but in a smart, playful way. That's actually what a lot of professional choreographers do. Sometimes they can also just feel the music and choreograph moves based on the music itself, rhythm, environment, etc. I've yet to actually choreograph that way. Maybe I should try, because as I challenged you all to go explore and find yourself through journey, I should take my own fucking advice, right? As if I do not enough of that. Okay, in any case, I will challenge myself to next pop choreography, choreograph based on movement and physicality rather than based on lyricism. It's a new thing, something that I think will be fun, although less of what I prefer. But again, I prefer freestyle, and I've deviated from that a little bit. Last week I did an entire 30 minutes of, you could call, so-called practice and freestyle. I might move into that type of alternating week schedule. I enjoy it though, because when you turn on the camera, for at least me, there's something about live, visual, audio that flows my juices. Woo!